Hello besties, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mar and today I am coming at you with another reading vlog. It's been a while since I did one of these. I've been in a reading slump pretty much all of March. I think I only read like 3 books in March. For this month, I decided that I would do a reading vlog in which I read Asian American girly romances. A lot of the books I'm interested in reading are Asian American girly romances. I have a lot of them that were just on my TBR that, you know, I thought, hey, this looks interesting for this video. That's what we're gonna do. And I'm super excited, so come along. I've done a K-pop stan does K-pop romances, and I really do want to do a part 2 to that. I've found that there's a lot of like K-pop romances and also like K-drama inspired romances. No K-pop inspired or K-drama inspired books will be in this video, but hopefully if you are someone who is wanting to get into reading again or is an Asian American girly like I am and want to find more books that sort of have that representation, maybe this video will help you find some recommendations. Again, I will be doing sort of not necessarily in-depth reviews on each book, but I will be sharing my thoughts and all of that. If you want to read along with me, that's fine. So let's get into it. So the first book I really wanted to pick up because I have a physical copy of is If You Could See the Sun by Liang. And this is like an academic rivals to lovers kind of story. I think the romance is more of a subplot to it. It's pretty much about this girl named Alice Sun. She goes to this international school in Beijing and, you know, she's at the top of her class and all of that, but there are a lot of external things that she's facing right now and a lot of external pressures, and it's very much almost like a coming of age story. I really want to annotate it, so I have a whole annotation guide. I am someone who loves annotating. It helps me just read the book a lot slower and all that because I am a fast reader, so I'm super excited to read this book. I remember I did try reading this maybe I think when it first came out I did try to read this, but I wasn't feeling it. I'm super excited to read this book. So I've made it through the first maybe 4th of this book. For the most part, I've been really enjoying this book so far. I think what I love most about this book right now is the writing. The writing in this is just really well done, and there are a lot of quotes and all of that I really enjoy in this book so far, as well as like the main character is a very relatable character. If you have a very sarcastic sense of humor and you're also like very much type A and an anxious girly, you would really connect with the character Alice Sun in this book because her internal dialogue is just very relatable. I think there's also a lot of different subjects and themes that are very apparent growing up as someone who is Asian American or has experienced living in America as an Asian person and having, you know, immigrant parents. There's some quotes very much encapsulate like that Asian American experience. I would categorize this as young adult romance, but more so of a coming of age story. I wouldn't classify this necessarily as romance, but there is a lot of tension and there's a lot of banter between the main girl and the main guy in this book so far. I'm really interested to see where it goes. You can see something bubbling, but it hasn't really reached the threshold yet. So I'm excited to continue reading this, and I will let you know my opinions as we keep going. Pretty much just spent my whole afternoon annotating this book. I thought I would do my review of it now. Overall, I gave this a 4.5 stars. Overall, for story, I would give this 3.75 out of 5. There's this aspect of magical realism in the sense that Allison, she has the ability to turn invisible. She sort of uses her invisibility powers to carry out tasks that her classmates, you know, ask her to do. There's a lot of talk about the moral implications, the ethics surrounding that, but then there's also like reasoning as to why Alice is doing this and all of that stuff. With Anne Liang's books, the concept of her books are very unrealistic, but what makes everything feel so real are the characters. For characters, I would give a 4.5 even. Like, I really like the characters in this one. Alice was definitely built out a bit more, and she just really had a voice throughout this entire book. I do see Alice as being like, it's either she's one of those characters that you're either gonna love or you're gonna hate. Henry Lee, he's her love interest. Henry Lee is like the son of like one of the richest CEOs or something in China kind of thing, or his dad has like one of the biggest tech startups in China, so he's very well off. I really like Henry as a character. I actually like kind of wish we got a point of view of Henry for this book. Kind of want to see like more of his side. There are some side characters that I do wish we kind of got to explore more in this book, but it's fine. Romance, I would give a 4. I would say more like the romance is more of a subplot to it. The main thing is more so coming of age. The romance is still good. I was trying to annotate more romantic moments throughout this, and the romance comes closer to the end. It's like once we get to the romance part, it's like Anne Liang's just pumping out romantic quotes like every single page. Romance wise, I would give it a 4. You know, it's like personally for me, I was fine with the romance sort of taking a back seat in this book. So yeah, that is If You Could See the Sun by Anne Liang, and now let's move on to the next books I'm reading. So I've currently made it to chapter 7 of This Time It's Real. This book about this girl named Eliza who has moved to Beijing with her family, and she is going to this international school and she's trying to finish up her senior year, and you know, she doesn't have a lot of friends. She feels like an outsider, but one of the things that makes her feel less like an outsider is writing. She really wants to go into journalism. What happens is that she has this English assignment due, and it's pretty much an assignment where she has to write an essay about someone she cares about, and it's going to be posted on her school's blog. So instead of actually writing an essay about someone in her personal life, she decides to take this assignment and turn it into a creative writing assignment. So she pretty much writes an essay about her and her boyfriend that she makes up. And so she posts her essay on the school blog, and all of a sudden it gains traction and it gets spread all over social media. And now she's sort of like this in the public eye, as millions of people have read her essay and fell in love with her writing and all of that. She is now in this predicament where she becomes popular because of this essay she's written, except everything she's written is fake. What happens is at this international school that she's at, one of her classmates is this really famous Chinese actor. She learns that he is involved in, you know, a couple scandals and all of that, and he has his publicity and it hasn't been great. And so she proposes to him that he pretend to be her fake boyfriend, and she can help him with, you know, his publicity and also help him with his college application essays. It's like a whole fake dating thing, which I love. I love a fake dating trope. This book is a bit different from If You Could See the Sun because the characters are just different. Eliza is for the delusional writer girlies who are waiting for their true loves. Alice is the girl who's like, she's for the driven, anxious girlies who want to achieve great things. And like that's how I would describe the two different characters. I'm in the last like 90-ish% of the novel. When I first started this book, I wasn't sure about the two main characters, but now I'm so invested. I don't know what's gonna happen. A lot of stuff has happened that has like physically like has made my heart hurt, which I was not expecting. I will pop in when things start heating up. Wait, what? Wait, what? Never mind. False alarm, you guys. False alarm. I just finished the book, and I will let you know my thoughts tomorrow when I've had time to think of it. The ending was not what I expected it to be. Hello, so it is the next day, and let's talk about This Time It's Real. Overall, I rated this book a 4.25 stars. I really liked it. I would classify this book as both like coming of age as well as romance. I found it really fun to read. For story at least, I would give it 3.5. This is more of a character-driven novel, so obviously the plot sort of takes a backseat. Like, it was a cute story. I feel like with the fake dating trope, it's a very predictable trope, but I feel like with fake dating, it's either like you really like it or you really hate it. For me, it has to be done really well. And I think with this one, it was done okay. Like, it wasn't my favorite fake dating trope book, but I enjoyed it. I was not a huge fan of the ending, and it was mostly due to the fact that it's just very open-ended at the end. Like, it doesn't really wrap everything up in like a perfect little bow. I think it's mostly due to the fact that like in the last couple chapters, a lot of stuff happens, and then it just feels like it abruptly ends. And I think another thing that I didn't like about this book, the main girl gets an internship for this journalism company or something. She gets this internship. She's still in high school. She gets this internship because of her viral essay. And the person that she's working under is like one of her idols. Like, she is like this writer who our main girl Eliza really looks up to. But the thing is, like, with this company is that like this company hires her for her writing, but this company hires her mostly due to the fact that like they want to sort of exploit her, like, her dating life. Like, they're just like, oh, we would love you to write like blog posts about you and your boyfriend and all of that. And for me, I just found that plot kind of weird, because I'm just like, there are things called boundaries, and you're also dealing with a girl who's a minor, and the guy is also a minor, and you want them to sort of exploit the relationship online, and then it's sort of like they want her to do all these interviews and all of that, and I'm just like, is this internship really about like how good of a writer Eliza is, or is it just because she went viral and you want to like use that clout for your own sort of like company? That was a kind of weird subplot that happened, and it just made me feel icky reading it. Yeah, let's leave it at that. For characters, I really like the characters. These characters definitely had to grow on me a bit more. I feel like with Anne Liang books, her characters there are two different types of categories. There's the unhinged main female characters, and then there's the delusional female characters. So like for unhinged, I would put Alice, like Alice Sun from If You Could See the Sun, in unhinged. And I would put Eliza from this book into delusional characters. I'm both, so like both of those characters I relate to on some level. Compared to like the other Anne Liang books, it's like her books usually have very strong academic weapon kind of female characters. They're perfect on paper kind of thing, but really like they're just like anxious little messes on the side. But like with Eliza's not really like that. She's not really seen as like this, you know, very like strong academic weapon kind of character. She stands out because of how good she is at writing and all that. She's not as like aggressive in the sense of like, I need to get straight A's, I need to be perfect. So, and she's also a character that like likes to bottle things up inside of her. So it's like she doesn't like to inconvenience others. She doesn't like to sort of share these feelings with others. And I think what I really like about Anne Liang's books is that these characters feel real. Like a lot of the times their motivations are very realistic and their thought processes are very realistic, but the actual like, you know, situations that they're in are very much unrealistic. So it's very much like she's good at balancing those two. Kaz is the main love interest. He's portrayed as, you know, a very stereotypical like cool boy actor. Him and Eliza have trouble opening up to each other. So like the first half of the book is sort of them trying to figure out like what this relationship actually is, and you slowly start to see them fall for each other. I think the slow build of his characterization really worked in this book, and I really liked it because by the end of the book, like I was so attached to him. I was so attached to this character. For romance-wise, yeah, for characters, I gave it 4 out of 5. For romance-wise, I would give it also a 4 out of 5. I like the romance in it. Obviously, there's fake dating. There are a lot of cute quotes in which the characters sort of confess their feelings. A lot of the feelings were confessed through monologues, which kind of makes sense because Kaz is an actor and Eliza's delusional. So for me, it's like I felt that on some spiritual level. There's a lot of scenes where they're doing like chemistry building and all of that because they really want to sell this fake relationship. There are a lot of cute scenes. Overall, this book, I give it a 4.25. I really enjoyed it. If you just want to read for characters and romance, highly suggest you read this book. That is my review for This Time It's Real. I decided that tonight I'm going to start I Hope This Doesn't Find You. I believe takes place in Australia, Melbourne. The previous 2 books took place in private schools in Beijing, and so I'm really excited to sort of see the story unfold in a different setting. And yeah, this one's marketed as if Laura Jean from To All the Boys sent hate mail instead. And so I'm really excited to read this one, just based off of the premise. I feel like this one might be my favorite one out of all of them, but we'll see. So I have gotten up to chapter 11 for I Hope This Doesn't Find You. I haven't really recorded anything. We've met the main character named Sadie Wen, and then we've also met her academic rival Julius Gong. And for this one, there's a lot more banter and all of that. I would say Sadie sort of enters the more unhinged territory. Same like with Alice, she's very much top of her class. She has an academic rival. I would say it's similar to Alice's, but they are also kind of in different situations as well. And for this one, I would say when it comes to like the enemies portion of it, they are more so like enemies, I would say. Like they are always sort of fighting and all of that, which is really entertaining to read. What's very interesting though is that like I think the main guy in this, like you learn more about him a lot quicker than the previous 2 love interests in the previous 2 books. He has more of a personality, he has more of a presence in this book, and there's also more moments of like forced proximity. I'm just gonna continue reading this book and try to finish this today. Okay, so I just finished finished. I hope this doesn't find you. And let's talk about it. I'm gonna be nice and round it up to a 4.5. I feel like this is a book I actually want to reread. So once it comes out in paperback, I think I'm gonna reread this book. I really like this book. And I think it was a bit more quicker paced than her other two books as well. Maybe I just read this one a lot faster. But yeah, story-wise, plot-wise, I would give it about a 4 out of 5. I mean, I think personally I just really like the concept of, you know, her emails getting sent out and all that, her having to navigate everything and all that with her classmates. I would say this one takes, like, this is more like unhinged enemies to lovers kind of thing. The rivalry is more so mutual, like Sadie cannot stand Julius and Julius cannot stand Sadie. And so everything that they do is a competition. There's so much banter. There's so much of like that tension between them, every single scene they have together. And also at the same time, I think this one does a better job at sort of wrapping up the story in the sense of like you have less questions when you finish reading the book. For characters, I would give it 4.5 out of 5. I really like the characterization of both Sadie and Julius. And like I said before, there's the unhinged category and then there's the delusional category. I would say Sadie falls in unhinged, but also Julius falls into unhinged as well. Both of them are very unhinged. And I think that's what makes their sort of relationship or whatever, like it just makes the banter between the two of them so fun to read because both of them are unhinged. They don't really hold back when it comes to like insulting each other and all of that. Sadie, she is very much she's very much described as this character who, you know, has this facade where she, you know, she tries to look perfect all the time. She's a people pleaser. She lets people walk all over her. I would say she has more so of like friendships. Sadie actually has like, you know, a best friend and all of that she confides in. She doesn't like confrontation and all of that, so that's why she writes these emails, is that she gets to say all the things that she doesn't, you know, actually say out loud and, you know, people don't know about her. And so when these emails get sent out, you know, she's now has to kind of like navigate this new world. She's like, everyone knows my true thoughts about them. And now she has to navigate that situation. Then Julian, he's sort of like the other two main love interests, I would say. I wouldn't say they're like passive, but like, or Henry, he's a bit more composed. And then Kaz is more mysterious, where Julius, he's sort of like, he says it how it is, like he's very opinionated, he's very sassy, he's, you know, he's not afraid to hold back against Sadie. We also get to meet Sadie's best friend Abigail, which I thought it was really nice that, you know, in this book, Sadie has a best friend who she like can confide in, who she's very close with, who, you know, pushes her, you know, out of her boundaries and all that. And so like, it was just nice to see that type of friendship as well. And then I do wish we got to have more scenes with her family and all that, because in this book, Sadie has a mom and an older brother. And it was like, that was a very much the family thing was very much a subplot. Like her dad like left them, he's like out of the picture and all of that, and so Sadie has trauma from that and daddy issues from that. I do wish we got more scenes with her family, because there's this one scene with like Sadie and her mom. It's one of my favorite chapters. Then for romance, I would say romance, I'm giving a 4. If you like enemies to lovers, if you like forced proximity, if you like those types of tropes and you like the building of like tension and all of that, I would say you would probably like the romance in this. There's a lot of tension, there's a lot of banter and all that. And then, you know, the final sort of chapters sort of pay off and all of that. I think like this book could have even gone longer. When we get to the end, the endings are very abrupt, and it's mostly due to the fact that she tries to keep her endings very open-ended. So if she like wants to go back and continue these stories, she can and all that. But most of these have been standalone novels. You're kind of left to picture it's like where these characters might end up in the future. I would say like the romance pays off by the end of it for sure. And, you know, especially with like the characters, you care to love these characters and all that. But it was like, it felt like it ended so abruptly again in this book as well. I could read like 100, 200 more pages of this. And so yeah, I've read 3 An Liang books. I was going to make this maybe just like a video of me reading An Liang books, but I wanted to read more books. So we are going to move on to the next one. Let's go along to the next clip. So last night I started the book Stay With My Heart, and pretty much this whole day I've been reading it. I'm currently on chapter 26 of the book, and honestly, I'm so addicted. This book is really easy to get into, and pretty much it's about this girl named Liana. While she's at a graduation sort of party, she meets this guy who's a part of this band called Third Eye. She gets into this situation where she accidentally causes the band to lose a member. She's trying her best to help this band get the popularity that they deserve. I haven't got to the romance subplot yet, but I do know that there is a romance subplot, and this is just a really easy read. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue reading. I'll probably just wait and give you a full review. I just finished Stay With My Heart, so let's unpack my thoughts about it. Overall, I rated this book a 4.25 stars, and like, I don't know, for this book video, it just feels like all of my ratings have been the same, or like along that spectrum. For this one, I rated it a 4.25 stars, and yeah, so let's unpack that. So for story, I gave this a good 4 to 4.5 stars. And I think I'm rating the story a bit higher because this one has a bit more of a plot to it compared to the other romance books I was reading. The other ones didn't necessarily have a lot of a plot. It was more character driven, where it's like this one, there's actually a goal that they're trying to reach by the end of the book that ties up very nicely at the end of it. Story-wise, it's pretty much, yeah, about this girl named Liana Sakar. And pretty much her dad is this A&R representative. She doesn't want anyone really to know who her dad is because she doesn't want people using her to become friends with her just to use her to get to her dad. And also her and her dad don't have that relationship. Her and her dad's relationship has sort of been strained ever since her mom died. That gets addressed in the book. Without any spoilers, pretty much she ends up ruining the chances of a local band in her community. She's trying to figure out how to make the situation better and pretty much help this local band get the chance that they deserve. That's all I can say without like getting into spoiler territory. Throughout this whole book, they are preparing to enter this songwriting competition or some type of competition, and whoever wins that competition has a chance to get signed to the record label that Liana's father works under. So that's sort of the main plot of the novel. Next, we move on to characters. Characters, I give a good 4 out of 5. The main girl, Liana, she's a developed character. Every single chapter you read, you understand her motivations, you understand her thought process, because this girl is kind of messy. She's has severe anxiety and she has depression. She doesn't have a lot of friends, so she's a really interesting character to read. For the most part in this book, I really liked her. And then we get to the band member. So the main love interest, his name is Skyler Moon. And, you know, he's obviously in a way that kind of stereotypical heartthrob. of the band. Like, all the girls sort of swoon over him. He's like the Korean member of the band, and he has like very much the savior complex. His motivations really lie in doing whatever is best for the band and, you know, the band members, and he puts like everyone around him first before he puts himself. And I do wish his character was more like fleshed out, because compared to the other band members, like, his storyline was one of the ones that fell more short. It's like you get enough information that it's like you can understand his motivations and all that, and it's the same with the rest of the other members. It's just I do wish there was a bit more of them, you know, because I ended up really liking the band members and the characters, but it felt like we didn't get enough of them, especially with like Skyler. Romance, I would say 3.5. Romance was definitely more of a subplot, the main romance being between the main girl, Liana, and Skyler. There are a lot of cute moments between them, and, you know, it's more so the romance was very much a slower build. They get to know each other, they get to bond over music in this book as well. There's so many references to music. Every chapter, there's like around 50 chapters, so every chapter is titled after a song. So it's a song title and the artist. So a lot of K-pop for you K-pop girlies, a lot of Taylor for you Taylor girlies, a lot of other singer-songwriters out there. There was not a single BTS reference in this entire book, so I did have to knock a little bit of points off of that because there was no BTS reference. The romance is very much a slower burn. It's not, you know, there's not a lot of like physical stuff or anything like that. It's very much like these two people really bonding over music and, you know, trying to understand each other kind of thing. Overall, I really like this book. I read it in like almost one sitting. Those are my thoughts for Stay With My Heart. I really liked it. And so yeah, I think I have one more book I am planning on reading, so I'll probably get started on that tonight. And yeah, so those are my thoughts for Stay With My Heart. Okay, so we are going to be starting the last book of this video, and that is Clementine and Danny Save the World and Each Other. I have no idea what this book is about, but I'm gonna probably read this for the rest of the night and see how far I can get. It looks cute, but it looks like, actually no, all of these books are like the same amount of pages, but the thing is with like the line spacing of each book are so different. Like for this one, the line spacing, they're so, like all the lines are really close together. So yeah, let's get started. So I'm about like 50% of the way through this book, and it's been a pretty easy read. This whole sort of book is about these two characters. It's dual point of view. It's about these two characters named Clementine and Danny. And so Clementine and Danny both are in a way bloggers, or it's more so Clementine, she is a blogger who goes around her city blogging about different Asian like cafes and tea shops and all of that and leaves her reviews. And Danny is, you know, he follows this blog, but he's like this girl's hater. Like every time she posts something, he is a hater, except these are anonymous blogs, so neither of them know who each other are and all of that. One day it turns out that this big corporation is planning on pretty much buying out or forcing all of these Chinese, Asian, locally owned shops out of this strip mall so they can use a strip mall as a building for like this corporation's new grocery store market thing. The strip mall means a lot to Danny because his parents own a tea shop there. Meanwhile, Clementine, she's very much into that sort of activism stuff. So pretty much Clementine and Danny end up meeting and they work together to save this tea shop. Meanwhile, they still don't know about their online aliases kind of thing, so they don't know that they're each other's haters. But the main sort of reasons why like Clementine and Danny are fighting all the time online is that Clementine, she writes these reviews as to like what she likes about these tea shops and why people should visit these tea shops. And then she also gives recommendations for how these tea shops can attract more customers. She has this more modernization approach, westernization approach to these tea shops or these mom and pop Chinese owned stores kind of thing. Meanwhile, Danny, he's more on the side of because his mom and dad own this, you know, this tea shop, he's very much, he wants to keep the traditional culture going. So he doesn't like Clementine's ideas of, you know, forcing this modernization, westernization on all these shops. So like they make compelling arguments on both sides and all that. So I don't think neither of them is like right or wrong in that sense. So that it's like, it's really interesting to read that part. So I don't know who marketed this book as like a young adult romance. I would say like, again, the romance is very much a subplot. Like obviously these two characters have chemistry with each other, but yeah, it's like I'm 50% of the way through. I wouldn't say like this is like a groundbreaking book or anything like that. It's a book that makes many arguments about, you know, sort of the Asian American experience and culture and all of that and Western culture. I think I'm just going to try to read as much of the book as I can tonight and then sort of make my judgment by the end of it. Just wanted to give you a little check-in. Okay, so I finished the book Clementine and Danny Save the World and Each Other. By the time I got to like 70% of the book, I already knew what I was going to rate this book. I'm rating this book a 3.5 stars out of 5. And so yeah, story-wise, I would say it's a good 3.5. I think that like the problems, situations, and like themes that the book was trying to address was pretty like clear in the book. I think what fell short is just the writing in this book in general. Like the pacing was just kind of weird to begin with. It in some parts it felt it went really fast, and then in other parts it like slowed down, and then by the time we actually got to like the actual drama in the book, it was like at a point where I genuinely did not care about what happened to the characters, what was happening in the novel. I just genuinely did not care. I think we spent time on a lot of things that just like weren't important, you know? And then we brushed past a lot of things that seemed a bit more important. So for me, the pacing was just weird in this book. Next thing we have characters. Characters, I would give a 3.25. You get the point of view of both characters. And I feel like Clementine was a character that just like has very little character development. Like throughout the whole book, she's practically the same. And she's described as this character who is, you know, type A. She's very much an overachiever. She's a go-getter. She has parents who are journalists and she wants to become a journalist. She's like really giving it her all with the newspaper club at her school, as well as like doing all of these other extracurriculars, like running a whole blog, as well as doing like this activism stuff for like the Chinese community and all of that. She talks about things from a very privileged point of view and also a very Western point of view. She's just like, well, maybe these mom and pop shops need to like drum up business by like, you know, becoming a bit more modern and all of that. And so it's like that's kind of her thought process throughout like the whole book. Even when like she gets herself into situations where there's a learning moment, she'll learn from it, but nothing about her, like her actual character development really changes. Like she's just like, oh, okay, like she just fully accepts it and then we move on to the next thing, but it's sort of like you don't see her in action actually like applying what she's learned. Then Danny, I like Danny as a character. Danny, I feel like was a bit more realistic than Clementine. He's more of a realist, you know, he's much more traditional. He's a character that it's like family is so important to him and it's been ingrained in him. And he's like worked really hard in his family's tea shop, like, and he's pretty much like spent almost like his whole childhood helping to support his parents, working at this tea shop and all that. And so that's why he has such a traditional view of their culture and like of Chinese culture. And so I like Danny because I understand his motivations a lot more in this book rather than Clementine's. Like Clementine's, I'm just like, I don't really understand her motivations. Danny, I feel like he was just a bit more fleshed out than Clementine, and he had a bit more character development and all that. So really like Danny is the reason why like characters are a bit higher. For romance, honestly, like I would say actually like a 3. I would say a 3 for romance because it just feels so abrupt like when you read it. And this is where like I said, like, you know, the pacing's kind of weird. It's just like the first half, you know, it's more so like Clementine and Danny are getting to know each other. They have like maybe a couple moments where they're together where, you know, they're sort of like maybe there's something, and then all of a sudden it just like flips like a switch, and all of a sudden like they're just like, we love each other. It turns on and you're just like, where did this come from? Like it just like when I was reading it, that's what shocked me the most. I was like, where did this come from? I thought it would be a much slower build to like get to that point, but no, it was just like little moments, bam, like romance happens and it's just kind of like shoved down your throat and you're like, whoa. I just think it wasn't as necessarily like well done. And I think also the marketing, it's kind of marketed as like, you know, it's like You've Got Mail but like young adult version. So it's like people who are like anonymously haters, like are enemies with each other, but you know, they come to like each other sort of thing. It could have been executed better, the romance portion, as well as like the more enemies to lovers type of situation they have could have been executed much better. So yeah, 3 out of 5 for romance. I had some problems with just the way the book was written. Again, like there are some things in this book, like in the writing, that I was like, yeah, like these are valid points. Like I agree with these points, and you know, I agree with the themes that are coming across and like what the author is trying to communicate with us. But at the same time, I was like, this could have been executed a bit better. I think also having a dual point of view book is also different, and also this is like the only dual point of view book I read for this specific video. As well, all of the other more romance books were, first of all, more romance than this one. They were also only written from one point of view. There was only one character that they really needed to flesh out, and then the other ones didn't have to be as fleshed out. But for this one, it was sort of like, you know, with dual point of view, you'd have to have 2 characters that you have to flesh out. 3.25 stars for Clementine and Danny Save the World and Each Other. The and each other part, I'm not necessarily sure if that's entirely accurate, but yeah, that's all I have to say. I finished this book way quicker than I thought I would, to be quite honest, and yeah, I will close out this video in the next clip you watch. Now to conclude this week's reading vlog. This week I pretty much read Asian American girly romances, again using the term Asian American very loosely. I did not disclose that in the beginning, so very loose terms of Asian American, pretty much as books that encapsulate kind of like that Asian American experience and all that. Not necessarily all of them take place in America. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!